Okay, here is how to integrate Trigger.dev with your Next.js project. I literally just spent like the entire day doing this shit. I had a poly repo, and now I'm on a mono repo in order to basically reuse a bunch of code, because what I found myself doing was rewriting code like 10 times, and I was like, alright, shit, I need to fix this. So here's how it works. Basically, we have API routes up here, and then we have our trigger tasks down here. And the issue was that I was rewriting a bunch of the code, and that goes in lib high level. So let's just take this action, for example. Basically, what we're doing is we're hitting an external API, and we're trying to get a transcript for a phone call. And essentially what we are doing is, or what we're doing in this case, is we're passing in the access token or the information necessary to get the access token, and then we're grabbing that using a reusable task. So all we have here is a little task, and this just pulls data out of the database, and then we come back to this task and we use that to get the transcript. And so what you can do now that these things are integrated is we can just drop this function straight into a trigger task or into a front-end API route. So here in our actions, we have this action called call transcript. And what we're doing is we're trying to get this call transcript. And the reason this one is in trigger is because it needs to be able to be long-running and run a few times. And so what we do is we have a max attempts sort of thing here, and all it's doing is it's checking until the call transcript is ready. And we're using that function. All we do is we pass in the information that we need, and we actually pass in the Supabase client, because the interesting thing here is that if we come back to this, the way you would, let's just import create client from Supabase, and the way you would create a client in Supabase in a Next.js route is you would go on Supabase equals create client, and we'll pass in our database, and then we'll pass in process.env.supabase URL, and then anon key as well. But that doesn't actually work in Trigger because environment variables are accessed differently. So what you would do is you would do const supabase URL equals envars.retrieve, and then you would get the URL and the API key, and then you would create the client. So you can't actually do that from within your root and have it be composable in both environments. But what you can do is you can create this Supabase client. So if we come back to this task, what we're doing up here is we're creating our Supabase client right here, and then all we do is we pass that client straight to the function, and that function can use the client to do whatever it needs to do. So that's basically a goated solution. And really the only concern is that you're not going to have retries for your tasks that are built just not using Trigger. But what you can do is you can just add retries to the entire task itself. So what we could do here is, this is the payload, but we could say, or no, we could do retry max attempts 15 with a factor of 2. And that would give us the same retrying behavior. Or we could also, if we need just retries at a certain level, we could throw an error in here, and then we could wrap this in a retry.onThrow. onThrow, right? And this would be, we would have a return value, and that would be equal to retry on throw, which is like an arrow function or some shit like that. Yeah, you get the idea. So basically, this is the approach I recommend. I used to have like poly repos where I would have a trigger folder and then a front end folder, but you're gonna end up like reusing a lot of code or rewriting a lot of code, and this way you can reuse code, and yeah, it's gonna save you a shit ton of time. Now I just get to refactor, but I'm kind of deciding that it's better to just write a shit ton of spaghetti code to get something shipped, and then, you know, if the project works out, if people want it and if they want more features, make it better, you just go back in and you just fuck with the code and spend a day refactoring, you know? It's kind of satisfying, honestly. So I think that's a better approach. Just build what you're building, get it out there, ship it, get it off localhost, and then, yeah, if you need to refactor later, you can always do that. You can actually always do that. It's a pain in the ass, but it's possible, and most of the time it's worth it. So anyways, that's the video. Bye.